For this first part of our review, we're going to look at expressions. And so when we have an expression, we simplify. And by simplify, we look for the following. So we look to see, is there anywhere that we can combine like terms? Is there anywhere possible that we can do the distributive property? And we always follow the order of operations. So looking at our first problem here, we know it's an expression. Remember, expression contains numbers, variables, grouping symbols, and operations. And so we do see that there is a distributive property. So I'm going to start with distributing the 1/2 into the parenthesis. Half of 20x is 10x. Half of 32 is 16. I do not distribute because the parentheses ends here. So I'm going to drop down that minus x. And now if I look at combining like terms, I can see that I have an x here and an x here. And so when I go to combine those, I will have 10x minus 1x will give us 9x. And then that 16 is a constant that doesn't combine with anything. So our simplified expression would be 9x plus 16. Now we're going to move from an expression to an equation. So it contains all the same things that an expression does, but now we have an equal sign. And so we're going to take first and do the distributive property. And that's going to give us -2 times 4 is -8. -2 times -x is positive 2x. I'm then going to look at the left side of the equation, and I can see that I have like terms that I need to combine. So I'm combining those. So I'm just going to add together the 3x and the 2x to make that 5x. And now I'm at the point where I could actually start to solve. Solve means that I'm isolating this variable x. And I do that by using inverse operations. So if I have a -8, I'm going to add 8. The -8 and the +8 will cancel each other out. -23 and a +18 will give us a -15. And then if we have 5 times x, the inverse of multiplication is division, so we're going to divide, and we're going to get that x is equal to -3. And remember, the great thing about an equation is that you could take that -3, and substitute it back in for x, and then the right side of the equation should equal the left side of the equation. So we have done expressions and equations, and now we're going to look at a special type of equation called a proportion. And so when we have a proportion, we want to remember that first thing that we do is we want to cross multiply. And so I'm going to take and multiply 2 times 3x minus 4, equal sign, and then 3 times x plus 5. Once we cross multiply, I'm then going to continue on with my steps for solving. So this is going to be the distributive property. Multiplying 2 times 3x will be 6x. 2 times the -4 will be -8. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 5 is 15. And then we're going to take and we want to move all of our variables to one side, all of our constants to the other side. So I'm going to take this positive 3x and subtract 3x. I see a -8. The inverse is to add 8. And then our last step is going to be to take and divide by 3. So really the only thing that's different between that is that we have to start that first step where we take and do that cross multiplication. And now we're going to move into inequalities. And we know that there are a lot of similarities between solving an equation and an inequality. One big thing is that remember that when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative, you must change the direction of the inequality symbol. So here I'm going to take by starting with that positive 6, and the inverse is to subtract 6. And now I have negative 2 times x. The inverse is to divide by negative 2. Dividing by a negative means that I'm going to have to take this greater than and switch it to a less than. And then if it asks us to graph it, remember that because this does not have an or equal to, we get what is called an open circle. And then we shade all the numbers that are less than it. If it were to have an or equal to, then this would also be shaded in there.